Okay, Derek, thank you. Let's begin with the fact that there are some presidential candidates who did not show up for the rehearsals, and they did not know what is going on. Only 3 presidential candidates showed up: Martha Karua, Ole Kiapi, and Peter Kenneth. But how, maybe some of them did not know, like the opening shot, that they have to walk through and shake hands with some of their opponents. There are people who opted to pass their opponents. There are those who forgot and midway went back. How did that maybe say, how did that form an initial mood even for the presidential debate?
Like some of them looked like they were literally going to the gallows, like they were, you know, taking what they call the green mile, the last mile, heading to death row. Yeah. You want to walk in relaxed, looking confident, good handshake, a smile on your face. As far as shaking hands is concerned, that is really important in a debate format like this. Shaking hands is actually one way of psychologically letting your opponent know that you are ready for the debate.
Maybe if we could discuss the role that the moderators played in even setting the mood. Most people were expecting this was going to be a very combative debate, but it was laid back. What role could the moderators, or did the moderators play to enhance maybe the debate?
Yeah, now the moderators have a very important role. And you are right, this is a debate. It was not supposed to be an interview. So I would have liked to see more of the opponents talking to each other and less of the debaters just asking questions and then the participants just simply answering.
The podiums, apart from the 2 that were the extreme ends, of course, that were put in last minute, how did they play a part in the entire debate?
That's a great point, Evelyn. The podiums played a huge part. Now, the 2 podiums on the end, obviously for the last 2 participants, they were at a disadvantage because the podiums were lower than everybody else. Yes. So they lost positions of authority. As far as everybody else is concerned, however, I would have liked the podiums to have been a little bit lower down because I think their hands were a little bit too high, and that inhibited their use and involvement of their hands.
Derek, there's some point when another opponent is talking, you could actually read the body language of the rest as they were either listening to them. Some of them looked tense. They didn't know where to look, what to do.
So for a large portion of the time, you are just going to be standing there. So what is your facial demeanor going to be? That even has to be practiced, your facial expression. Or if your opponent says something that you don't necessarily agree with, what kind of a look do you give them? Do you give them daggers? And we saw all of that. I would have advised the candidates to have come up there perhaps with a pad or a pen, and so that when your opponent is speaking or somebody else is speaking, you can look to be, to be taking notes. So at least you're looking like you're busy doing something.
Duba Dida. He was a man of the night, yes. Obviously. Maybe if you could analyze him, he stood out as the man of the night.
What I loved about him was his authenticity, and he had nothing to lose. So shooting from the hip, I think he was the most authentic person up there in terms of his demeanor and in terms of his body language. And so in terms of the non-verbal communication, I think he was one of the better performers on the night. He wasn't too scripted. Again, there were some candidates up there who seemed a little bit too scripted, careful not to say the wrong thing. Yes. We want to see the real you.
A simple policy that every Kenyan should test, and this is in philosophy and religious studies. If you want to be healthy, eat when you're hungry. This timetable, I don't know who brought it, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then the dinner you come up with phase 1 where you take soup and mushroom, and then phase 2, phase 3.
A lot of debates are actually won on sound bites. So it's that one sentence, that one thing that you remember. And he had a lot of memorable sound bites, I think, over the night. And that's another thing that a lot of the candidates need to be able to practice.
The final shot when the candidates were told to bring their friends and their families on the podium, and we could see presidential candidates like Martha Karua holding their grandchildren, Raila Odinga, the grandchild actually ran to him. That immediately changed a lot. You could actually see on the social media, and people actually talking about it. These are actually human beings, and they're not just people that we look at as, we place them at a very high pedestal, but looking at them then, they were mere mortals, just like the rest of us. What impact did this particular shot have?
Look at that, that's a wonderful shot.
Yes.
And that's a wonderful takeaway. I always love to see families. I think we're a country that was, can I say, built on family values. That is something that we cherish. And so seeing some of these candidates and seeing a softer side of them plays well. As an electorate, we want to look at these people and we want to relate to them.
Thank you.
The handshake, you look someone in the eye, you smile.